Hello, welcome, Cabbage here. In War of the Visions, I said I was going to make a series of retrospective videos leading up to second anniversary. This video will be looking forward a little bit. We'll be talking about the past as well. But it's also pretty standard for coming up on anniversaries. That is a wish list for the second anniversary, and then also the coming year, the third year. And then the first part of the video we'll be talking about developer actions, what I hope for from the developers and how they handle the game. And then the latter half will be sort of more like concrete stuff, like content or units or stuff that I would like to see. Alright, but first, the developer action. I recently did a video, a kind of a developer's report card. I'll do that again in December after half a year has passed from then. But I hope for the most part they just continue what they've been doing. There are kind of like three really central pillars that make me want to stay with the game, make me want to invest in the game. And then here I'll talk about two of them. But that is kind of a good pace of power creep and then sort of broad and deep game balance. This game has both of those two really well taken care of, I think, at the moment. And so in respect to those two things, I hope they keep it like that. And then we've seen like some signs, even in global, that these two pillars are really strong. Like they can release, seasonal units ahead of schedule, like Halloween Frederica, or just like all new units that are not even in JP, like Lara Croft, and make them strong and useful, but they won't drastically shift the meta. And then this signals two things to me. One, the original design of the game, with all of the elements and attack types and stuff, is kind of naturally resistant to power creep. I've talked about because of all the elements and attack types, instead of like one sort of horizontal stack where you release new units and then each one is better than the last. Instead you have multiple stacks and then you kind of build them all individually. And so even if you release something strong over here, it's not going to affect over there so much. And then two, the developer's choice of new unit strength is again not aimed at leapfrogging everything. It's more like it's aimed at certain players, either fans of the character, or fans of the element, or fans of the playstyle. And I said this when they started releasing element-specific vision cards. It makes them easier to skip. And then this is why should you pull videos are not silly, but they're kind of outdated. It's like every unit is going to be good to somebody, so maybe like a better title for those videos is Who Should Pull? With universal vision cards, we had to seriously consider each one, but with the element-specific cards, we can just wait for the element that would match our account. And same goes for characters now. Which should make seasonal and then collaboration units easier to skip, because we're really getting to a point, even in global, where people should be kind of focusing on elements. Maybe 2 for more casual players, 4 for more hardcore players. People complaining about too many limited units are still in that pre-element focused mindset, and they're still kind of considering pulling every unit that comes out. We can't really think like that anymore. So power creep and game balance, I feel like they're pretty good. Hopefully they keep on with that. The third pillar, which has been my kind of biggest concern with the game, is the price of the game, and then I hope they continue to take it down. And I'm not saying something ridiculous like, lower the price of Visionor. That's never going to happen. But I said this in the previous video. It's been very interesting to see this year that they've moved the business model away from a balance of pulling and building and moved to a focus more on just the pulling. And I think this is the right move. JP players put up with it the first year when double price units were rare. But Dwayne was the last straw, and then the company more or less gave up on that experiment of a business model with a balance of pulling and building. But we are seeing differences in the shops and hatchers, like with more paid vision ore options, more exclusion of cost 100 units from select tickets and banners, and then of course the Crystal Fest. But all of this stuff is easy to ignore and play around, and it will stay easy until power creep, the pace of it, gets to a point where we need to engage that stuff in order to keep up. Hopefully that never happens. I said this in a recent community post, but I said my goal for year 3 was to focus more on taking the current units I have to EX jobs, and then pull less for new units. As long as power creep and game balance maintain as they are now, I think this will be a perfectly good way to go. And actually, that was my goal for year 2. I said this after the announcement of EX jobs. But here, I want to brag a little bit. We'll look at my account. I want to show you, like, my action of the last year, what I've been pulling for. So we can start here. I skipped Final Fantasy X and like Winter and Nier and all that. So here's Mont. I pulled a little bit for him, got him on the first pity, and then he still had the rate up, back when cost 100 units still had the rate up for the featured banner. Same for Helena here. And Camilo, he is a selection quest unit. Same for Muraga. Charlotte, I did pull for. I was very lucky and I got her in 2 pulls. Nemude, handout unit. Aerith fell in my lap. Barrett, I pulled for him. I got him during the 9 step up. And Gorasuda, pulled her randomly, slow built. Oberon, pulled him randomly, slow built. Dwayne, pulled him randomly, slow built. And then Araneo fell in my lap. Lucio, handout unit. Jum fell in my lap. Kain, I went the distance for him, but he's my favorite character of any Final Fantasy, so... And then Halloween Federica fell in my lap. So, if we think about it, I really only pulled specifically for 5 units this year. I think that's pretty good willpower, all things considered. But I'll try to stay on that path, or even be more stoic this coming year. Okay, so that's it for talking about my wishes for how the developers handle the game. Next, let's talk about like modes and features and stuff. But the first thing I would like to see, if our accounts are ready for it, however, that's going to be super hard Esper fights. I know that this is coming, it's just a matter of when. And then also when they come, I hope we get fights where it's just the one giant boss. I'm tired of all of these fights with just like mobs of like random generic guys. That's not fun. But then have just like that one big boss that's like super complicated and super hard. Like the weapon fights in Final Fantasy VII, or like any boss in Brave Exvius. And yeah, what I said about if our accounts are ready, the developers are not going to release content that like less than 1% of the community can beat. You know, they're keeping an eye on people's accounts and they're designing content in order to challenge, you know, players. And so if we do see the very high difficulty Esper fights come, that means that we have an idea of where the community is at as far as strength. And then this is related to like, you know, looking at the shops and the banners and how they are offered, and like it kind of reflects how that community spends and pulls in that game. Okay, the next feature that I would like to see added is permanent availability of pickup matches, and then also add a manual play option to it. This is a wonderful mode. I made a bunch of videos when it was only available for the week. And then it's one that I, as mainly an arena player, can get excited about. What keeps me away from class matches is the random opponent selection. It just doesn't do anything for me, and I don't know what I'm building for. But adding this little bit of team prep based on like what the opponent is bringing to the fight was enough to get me over the line to make me want to play the mode. And I hope they add a manual play option to it. I'll never play it, but it'll be nice for other folks. I got a lot of comments for that in the videos I put up. And then what's really exciting about the pickup match mode is that it could be a really great like spectator mode. It could become the main spectator mode for this game. During the JP live streams, the friend matches and tournaments are very popular, but the matchmaking is blind. If they started doing pickup matches, that would give everyone kind of more to talk about before the match, like how players try to address like maybe different opponents they might run into, and then it would also give everyone more to talk about during the match, both during the unit team selection and then during battle to see how the choices and then like the field positioning worked out. And then if you can get the players' live feed of them like doing their picks and talking it through and then like reacting to the match, I think that could make it even more engaging. I think there's a lot of entertainment and content potential here. Something like competitive like League Pro Tour play would be difficult since the monetary and then also time barrier to entry is so high in order to make a top tier team. And then I don't see the developers making like a pure PvP version of the game with like, you know, instant access to everything. So it'll be a small pool of players, but I think it'd be really exciting to watch. Okay, and then the next addition I would love to see to the game would be maps. I have talked about this many times before, and I'll link to some videos to what I've said before below. But hopefully interactive maps so we can know where the hell everyone is traveling in the story. I think that would raise both comprehension and then also engagement in the story. And then gameplay modes that use those maps. Kind of like Ogre Battle where teams move around a world map, and then if two opposing teams meet each other, then they enter the units versus units battle map. Another thing that I would like to see maybe a return for is more vision cards with vision abilities. I'm a big fan of these because these are super powerful, but I'm guessing that's the exact reason why they haven't made more of them recently. War of the Visions is a tactics game with unit customization possible, but largely only within specific bounds that are different for each character. There's no like, you know, create your own job mix or like learn skills from another job kind of a thing. There's very little cross-character stuff. But the vision abilities approach that sort of customization. But the developers have to be careful. They could really break the game if an ability is like too powerful or too versatile or too easily counters something. So I can understand why they have been kind of not touching that lately. But if that water card, that holiday party card ever comes back, I'm definitely going to pick that up because of the vision ability, in addition to other things. And another thing that maybe I would like to see a return is more universal vision cards. But I wonder if it's even possible. And then it'll be really fascinating to see how people react to these universal vision cards since we've been just getting the element vision cards for so long. The last thing I want is like a vision card that power creeps the old vision cards. Like a card that gives you 60% attack buff to the party, which would make Ifrit or something worse. But maybe like different combinations of like existing buffs or like remixes of old cards. I'm thinking specifically of the Snow White Guard. There it is. I would love to see like, you know, different versions of this with like different combinations of attack resistances, maybe different combinations of like demerits that you get for equipping it. And then like more cards that raise element resistance, more cards that like raise critical rate or critical damage. I'd like to see more universal vision cards. Alright, next I would like to see a big dump of MRs into the standard pool. And then this alone would make the game and then kind of the Hatcher like feel like brand new again. But in the last live stream, they pretty clearly said that they are not going to do this, but then they also said something similar about second mastery abilities too. But we got a ton of characters in the second season of the story that don't have units in-game yet, so I think it's very possible that they could do this. Alright, and then last thing that I would like to see in the coming year is a return of tactics. We all know it's coming, it's just going to be a matter of when. And yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see all of those characters get EX jobs. I'm guessing it's going to happen all at once, just because it's been so delayed. I don't think even if you gave all 6 of the characters the EX jobs, it would have that much of an impact on the overall meta, so I think they could do it all at once at this point. Alright, but those are my thoughts on what I would like to see at 2nd anniversary, and then in year 3. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again. Take care.